Hey everyone, you're about to watch an interview between myself and Maria Mastarakos, a physics teacher at John Abbott College out in St. Anne de Bellevue. I'm going to be talking with her about the common front strikes, or the Front Commun, as it's called here in Quebec. And we're just talking about the process of the strikes, what negotiations have been like, and just kind of what's on the horizon for the unionized teachers at John Abbott. Enjoy. Hi there. Today I am here with Maria Mastarakos, a physics teacher at John Abbott College, as well as the president of the John Abbott Faculty Association, I believe,
Yeah,
and union rep, if I am not mistaken.
yeah. We tend to be the external representatives to our central, so to FNEC CSN, which is
Right,
our
right, right.
regroupement. It's our federation, and then we're affiliated with the CSN.
Of course, of course. So the CSN been in the news lately. Last year, just at the end of last year, it was one of the largest strikes in North American history. I heard.
Yep.
So before we talk about the strikes, I'm kind of curious. I think the strike mandate your school got, well, the faculty got, was something like 99.4%. What was the lead up to the strikes like? How long did, like, I'm kind of wondering how far in the horizon people see this kind of big strike coming, and what were the steps like towards that?
So the collective agreement it expired in April of like almost a year ago, right? April 2023. And so obviously the negotiations are always on people's mind because the negotiating committees and the what they call le cahier de demande, the basically our demands to the government, all that gets done, 9 months prior to the contract expiring
Mhm.
because the idea is not to go on strike, right? And so we knew that something big was coming when we were getting the reports back from our negotiating committees. Because it seemed like there was just this wall at the government. So we just weren't getting any movement. And so it was really at the start of the semester that it was clear that one, people were really frustrated, and it was clear that people were ready for a fight. So the membership was ready for a fight. Um, and so we started really pushing and organizing for the mobilization in August when our semester starts. And I basically like went around and just brought coffee to our membership and talked to them. And it was clear that the frustration was much bigger than it usually is because everybody's feeling the pinch from the cost of living increases, right? So even people who normally might not be too interested were were ready and willing to go all the way. And so the buzz was sort of palpable in the room, and all of our unions at the college actually had historic strike votes because we're three unions at the college. We have the support staff and the
Mhm.
professionals. They're affiliated with the CSQ, not with the CSN, but both of them also had like historic levels above 90% in favor of the strike vote. So it was sort of unseen at the college. Like it was historical for the college as a whole for all the employees. So yeah, it really started. The buzz really started in August, and then we led up to our mid-September strike vote, and then we just kind of kept ramping up from there.
Incredible, incredible to hear that. I could, I guess it makes sense that cost of living crisis, the inflation has kind of
Mm-hmm.
really like flipped people who might not usually be so open to these kinds
Yeah,
of actions.
yeah, and also, we have the particular experience of being an Anglophone CEGEP, and
Hmm.
so we're coming out of the pandemic. The pandemic was a few years ago, and we've been teaching in person now for a few years now again because we were fully online for a year and a half. Like we didn't have
Hmm.
the half in, half out, so people were really tired from that. But then the infamous Bill 96 came, right? And so we're trying to make that happen in a ridiculously short amount of time. And so there's the stress of the post pandemic. There's now the stress of what's called Law 14 now. And then you have the cost of living, you have the issues just with working conditions. And, we love our students, but they're struggling more than ever because of the pandemic and just the realities of life right now. And so teachers are tired. Like teachers are just tired. And our membership specifically was very tired. And so it's sort of that kind of lights a fire oftentimes when people are pushed up against a wall.
No, of course, of course. I'm kind of curious. What could you share some of these frustrations that were shared with you as you were kind of bringing around coffees, talking to people in the membership?
They just felt like the cost of living thing was a big thing, right? There was
Hmm.
a feeling that, especially because at the time we were talking about the offer from the government, right? The offer from the government up until mid October, I think, was 9% over 5 years, right? It was well below inflation, and people were just like, "I'm already struggling, and they want me to take a pay cut. Like they want me to take one for the team when I already felt like one, I took one for the team in the last negotiations, which happened actually during the pandemic, and we took one for the team to try to figure out online learning. And so
Hmm.
it was very much an exhaustion kind of sentiment from everybody of just being asked to do more with less. So to do the same job that they're doing where they're already tired, but to do it for less money essentially. And that it also felt a lot of people felt insulted by the government because
Hmm.
François Legault, right, famously when he was in the opposition, said that we needed to pay teachers more and education was going to be, you know, was going to be one of the priorities, and then they come back with this offer that's an insult, right? It wasn't even less than acceptable, it was insulting. And so people felt very aggrieved by that. um, and so that was really that was really the galvanizing point, I would say.
Hmm. No, of course, of course. Before you're mentioning how students were being squeezed, I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
curious what reactions from the students you saw towards this strike and during the lead up to the strike as well. Did you have the
this
support of the students, parents?
The students were fabulous, I have to say. I mean, we're all teachers, we love our students. And
Hmm.
I have to say that we did a few mobilization events for the students where we talked to them or we handed out pamphlets. One of the things we did was we had like a cake day where we served cake and talked to them about our demands. And this was post strike vote, the one with the cake, and um, they were 100% behind us. I don't think that there was one student who didn't understand why we were doing what we were doing. And they did also understand that we were doing it for them. They understood the fact that if we're squeezed, if we're exhausted, then we can't teach them properly. And so I would say that overwhelmingly the students were in support of all of the labor action. Some of them visited us on the picket line. They brought us hot coffee and hot tea, and they talked to their teachers. They talked to us. The student newspaper did a story on us
Oh
on the
wow.
picket lines, and so yeah, it was really encouraging because I mean, at the end of the day, right? Yes, we strike for us, but a big part of it is that we want to be able to do our jobs well because we care, right? Teachers
Of
care about their
course,
students.
of course. I'm kind of curious about the organizing and the mobilizing. How much of it was from the membership there? How much of it was from top down? Because sometimes you hear about some actions that are mostly organized by like higher level union whatever bureaucracy of
Mhm.
sorts. I'm kind of curious about who were leading these efforts at the school.
So the executive is
Hmm.
the one that sort of we're the ones that have time off from teaching basically to help run a lot of the logistics of all this. But we had a mobilization committee, which is made up of members of the executive and teachers, and so we got our ideas from the mobilization committee, which is a committee of teachers, and we had a joint mobilization committee with the other unions because we were all going to be on strike at the same time. And so we would come up with ideas and events. And so it was sort of half and half. The executive kind of started everything and put in place like the mob committee and coordinated it. But it was really grassroots, a lot from the teachers of their ideas. and them running it, and we had help from people in terms of organizing mobilization events, for instance, like the cake. That was all. It was sort of like a joint idea between the executive and the mob committee, and the mob committee took it and ran with it and ran it. We just made sure
Mhm.
that the tables were there, and that the room was booked, or that the area was booked, and the cake was paid for.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm kind of wondering what your current thoughts are on the contract votes happening right now. The unions
Yeah.
are back talking to their memberships about this agreement that has been reached in principle with the
Mm-hmm.
government. I've read something like there's an upwards of a 23% salary increase for some people. I'm wondering what the voices are like on the ground about these agreements.
So it's hard to say. We have our vote tomorrow. Tomorrow morning is our general assembly, and most people have been reacting to the central table, which is the one that's 17.4%.
Hmm.
And then for us, like you say, like there are some people that get higher increases because, like the primary, secondary school teachers, are like our steps, like our salary scale. There's a grid. It's also within the sectoral negotiations. It's been the agreement in principle has adapted it, and so yeah, some, not everybody, but some people will see, if it's voted and accepted, some people will see higher than 17% increases. It's hard to say, because I think on some people were disappointed in terms of the
Hmm.
central table agreement, in terms of the percentage. They were hoping for more because of the the mobilization was historic and the strike votes were historic. So, but I personally, I think that it'll be up to the membership to decide, because some people think that it's enough. Like it's really one of these deals where it falls on either side. I'm not trying to be
Hmm.
vague, because it really is sort of like a, the Nego committee, I think, did the best that they could, facing like a government that was like a wall to negotiate with. And so when you're pushing up against something that won't move, every, every 0.1% you have to fight for. So I think people have mixed feelings, I think, about it, and we'll see tomorrow. We'll see tomorrow what, for us, our membership thinks.
I'll definitely check in. I'm kind of curious how that's gonna go.
I'll let
Um,
you know. I'll
Perfect.
let you
Thank you
know.
very much.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll send you an
S-
email.
so I think it's interesting that there's your school, not one of the only ones, of course. You have multiple kind of different businesses and schools that are kind of even though they share the same, let's say, like workspace. There's different unions inside it, right? And
Mhm.
I guess jumping off of that, I'm kind of wondering what level of satisfaction people have with the Flonkamer, with this kind of historic alliance between the between four unions that kind of harken back to the 1972 Common Front. Are people satisfied with it? This even kind of, I guess, extends the question of whether or not people feel like the strikes have been worth it, but also has the have the strikes been worth it, and also how do people feel about the alliance so far?
And I think in general, the alliance worked out quite well. I'm gonna speak locally.
Of
So
course.
there's a few things locally that happened, right? There was, for us, with the alliance with the Common Front, we also had the alliance. There's actually two federations that have CEGEP teachers. So we have the FNEC CSN and we have the FEC CSQ.
Hmm.
And so that alliance was actually quite useful, because when people were negotiating, right, like they had access, not necessarily exactly to the agreements for the other sectors, but they knew people on the other negotiating teams, so they were able to communicate with them to see like how the talks were going, and what kind of agreements they were getting. Whereas if we didn't have those alliances, if we weren't in the Common Front, we wouldn't have access to that information, because you're not directly in communication with them. So that was quite helpful for everybody, I think. And in terms of locally, it was really it was a good opportunity for the three unions to come together and to work together and to be on the picket line together. And as much as strikes, they're hard, like they're hard on the membership, in terms of you have to be outside and you're not getting paid, but it creates a kind of camaraderie that we don't necessarily get at any
Mhm.
other time, because when else am I going to be, standing and chatting with the carpenter from the college, or the electrician, or the person that works in the visual arts lab? Um, so you get to sort of meet everybody and hang out, and talk about the the different struggles that each profession has, right? And the thing that you discover when even you're talking to a worker that might not have the same job as you is that they face usually the same struggles with the employer or with the government, the clawbacks of what they're trying to claw back from the collective agreements. Like, it's all pretty similar, so it does have this sort of like unifying effect. So I would say that locally, at least, the Common Front was a good experience. I know that, and I don't think that we would have gotten as far as we did negotiating wise had we not been in the Common Front. There is something to be said when you say there's 420,000 people on strike at the same time.
Mhm. No, absolutely. I guess jumping off this point of camaraderie, I'm kind of curious if in the bloom of the strikes, has there been kind of new dynamics, new kind of relationships at work? Like how do people kind of connect to each other after the strikes?
I think I know that for me personally, and I'm gonna there was the three presidents of the unions that are at the college. Like, we became quite close, um,
Mhm.
and two of us are quite new. Myself and the president of Jack Aspa. I think he's in his second year. I'm in my first year. I've been on the executive before, and him too. But as presidents, we were new, and so these new relationships were able to really solidify themselves quite quickly because we were forced to. Um, and it was a really nice experience. And then there was the third president of the professionals too. Like, we were all able to sort of get together and talk about the different ways that we wanted to mobilize our members. And so, because that relationship now exists, now it's even easier to work together and to support each other moving forward, because the relationships have already been created, right?
Mhm.
And you also just kind of get to know everybody at the college. So then when I'm walking down the halls now and I pass, you know, Chris, the guy from shipping, who I talk to because he's on the mobilization committee for the support staff, like, you say hello to people, and you just make new colleagues. You make new colleague friends just because you were put in a situation where you get to talk to people that you didn't before. Um, so it's a strange it's a strange effect that strikes have, because it actually, um, because you're all together, it does create these new relationships that then you can build on moving forward. So it was a
Moving
good thing for the college, right? So any
of
sort of
course.
local, let's say that the support staff have a demand to the local administration, well, they can lean on us a little bit more, or they can ask for our support because the relationship is already there. Not that they couldn't ask before, but now we have all sort of worked with each other, so we we sort of know more what the needs of the support staff are, even though they would negotiate with the administration for themselves. Like,
Hmm.
we can keep in contact a bit more and support each other better.
Incredible, incredible. All this talk of moving forward, what do you think is next for teachers at John Abbott in 2024?
Oh, we'll have to deal with Law 14. That's
Right,
going to be
right,
the big
right.
thing. That's going to be the big thing. Figuring out, we've already implemented the first phase, which was
Hmm.
the cours en français for the students that have to, the non ayant droit, as they call them, the francophone and the allophone students that don't have an English education certificate. They have to take courses in French to prepare for l'épreuve universelle de français. So our French teachers worked like crazy last semester in order to, sorry, the semester before, like a year ago, to make sure that for the fall they were ready. And now we have the second phase to implement, which is the courses, sorry, les cours de français. Now it's les cours en français, so the program courses that have to be in French. And so we have to change all of our program grids for every single program at the college. And those, we have to decide which courses are going to be taught in French. And prep them and start giving them next year. So that will be the big the big ticket item, at
Oh
least for the
gosh.
next year, for sure. As we make the decisions and as we change the grids and then as we move forward into implementing the different courses.
Seems like a lot of work for a short period of time.
It is an incredible amount of work. It Regardless of what you think of the law, whether it's some people are supportive of it, some people aren't. Even at the college, right? We have people might think that everybody would be not in favor,
Hmm.
but some teachers are. But everybody can agree that the implementation time is ridiculous. That it was not enough, and we weren't given enough resources, and it's just been du n'importe quoi. It's just been like it's the only way to put it. It's just been like here's a mess, make it work. We don't have any idea how CJEPs work and how the infrastructure works or what you guys actually have to do in order to just make it happen. And people are stressed out and
Oh,
tired.
yeah.
The administration and the union are often at odds because that's just sort of the nature of the relationship. But on this one, we all agree that the implementation time is ridiculous, and they've been pushing on their side. I know to get it in a shorter amount of time, and we have to on our end with the federation. So, yeah, it's been stressful. It's stressful for all the English colleges to try to implement this within this very very short time frame.
No, I've heard very similar things from contacts of mine at other English CJEPs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Maria, I think that is all my questions for today. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. You take care.
You as well. Take care now.
Bye.